It was 3:42 a.m. when Alex finally looked up from his phone. His eyes were dry, his neck stiff, and his back ached from slouching on the couch. For nearly 6 hours straight, he'd been scrolling, videos, memes, pointless arguments in comment sections. A war in the Middle East. A new diet fad. Some stranger's vacation photos. It was an endless stream of information and distraction. His to-do list for the day remained untouched on the kitchen counter: finish project proposal, call mom, clean room, apply for freelance gig, read 10 pages of book. Not a single item had been crossed off. He blinked into the blue light of his screen as if waking from a trance, then groaned as he tossed the phone onto the couch beside him. Outside, the sky was still dark, but he could hear the first hints of morning, the distant sound of delivery trucks, birds tentatively chirping, the hum of life preparing to restart. Alex rubbed his face and muttered the same thing he'd said countless times before: what am I doing with my life? A year ago, Alex had big plans. He had quit his corporate job with the dream of going freelance: more flexibility, more creativity, more freedom. I want to work on my terms, he told everyone. No more wasting time in an office. But since then, freedom had slowly turned into avoidance. He did pick up a few gigs here and there, enough to keep rent paid, but most days blurred together in a cycle of distraction and procrastination. Netflix in the morning, Reddit in the afternoon, panic at night. Wash, rinse, repeat, the worst part. He knew it. He knew he was wasting time. But he kept doing it anyway. That morning, as the sun started to peek through the blinds, he walked into the bathroom and stared at his reflection. Pale. Tired. 33. He could feel time slipping through his fingers. One day at a time, he opened Instagram and started to scroll out of habit, but stopped himself mid-swipe. He stared at the screen, then slowly turned it off. Something in his chest was stirring. Frustration? Regret? Guilt? No. Urgency. He picked up a notebook from the coffee table and wrote in all caps, "Stop wasting your time." Then, underneath it, "Every second you're distracted, you're choosing not to live." That sentence hit him like a brick. He set the pen down and stared at the words. For the first time in months, he felt something real, the discomfort of truth. The next morning, Alex made a vow: no social media for 7 days. It was harder than he expected. His fingers reached for his phone every few minutes like a nervous tick. But instead of scrolling, he forced himself to sit in silence. He did the laundry. He read. He went for a walk. He noticed things he hadn't in months: the sound of his own breath, the rhythm of his neighborhood, how trees swayed when the wind blew through them. He finally called his mom. She cried when she heard his voice. "I thought you'd forgotten me," she said. That night, he actually read 20 pages of the book he'd been meaning to finish. Small steps. But steps nonetheless. On day 3, something strange happened. He started writing again, not just emails or proposals. Writing. The kind that came from somewhere deeper. Stories, ideas, little bursts of creativity. It felt like cleaning out a long-forgotten attic in his mind. Dusty, but full of treasures. By day 5, he'd outlined a blog post about productivity and self-sabotage. On day 6, he submitted a pitch to a freelance magazine. Each day without distraction was like reclaiming a part of himself he thought was lost. And then came day 7, he sat at the kitchen table, notebook open, coffee in hand. He stared at the words he had written on day 1, "Stop wasting your time," and for the first time, he truly understood them. A few weeks later, Alex was invited to speak at a local creative meetup. They wanted him to talk about freelancing and motivation. He stood in front of a small room filled with dreamers, strugglers, and seekers, people just like him. Nervous at first, he told them his story. The late nights of doom scrolling. The guilt. The feeling of lost potential. And the decision to do something different. "I realized I wasn't lacking talent," he said. "I was just wasting my time." That he paused, letting that settle. "Look, your time is your most valuable currency. You can always make more money, you can't make more time. Every minute you spend numbing yourself, scrolling, avoiding, procrastinating, is a minute you don't get back. And believe me, they add up. The room was silent, everyone was listening. Start small, he continued. 10 focused minutes a day. One honest phone call. 1 task crossed off the list. That IT doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Afterward, several people came up to thank him. One woman said, "You said exactly what I needed to hear." He smiled, humbly. He knew that feeling well. Months passed. Alex wasn't perfect. He still had lazy days. But now, he was aware. Conscious. He no longer scrolled on autopilot, that he scheduled his time, that he made space for silence, for reflection, for real creation. His freelance work grew. His writing was published. He built a small community of readers who found comfort and motivation in his words, but most importantly, he felt alive. He often returned to that one sentence in his notebook, the one that sparked it all. Every second you're distracted, you're choosing not to live. He had no idea who he'd be in 5 years or what twists life might throw his way. But he made a promise to himself every morning: be here, be present. 3 years later, Alex stood in a bookstore autographing copies of his first published book, Time Thief: How to Take Back Your Life from Distraction. One man said, "You made me realize I was wasting my potential. I'm back in school now. I never thought I'd go back." Alex smiled, offering the same advice he always gave: it's never too late, just stop wasting your time.